In today's show, we discuss, assuming NPCs actually exist, how could we even recognize them?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
How the hell, Tony? What you gonna do, eh?
Come on, I'm going to ask you. You know I'm going to ask you, aren't I? You know I'm going to ask you to do it. To say hi to our audience. You've been really good of late, so can you keep that trend going?
Hello, audience.
Okay, that's not bad. Not bad, not bad. You're getting there. This is becoming a trend now where you're actually saying hi to our audience in a reasonable manner. Not quite upbeat, but it's getting there slowly. For our listening audience, you should have seen the look that I just gave me there.
My personality might have something to do with my upbringing.
Okay.
You know, I was raised by my parents as an only child, which I feel has had some unexpected side effects. For example, it really annoyed my siblings.
What?
It's one of those things.
So today's show, this is a strange one actually. You may not understand from the title what it is, and I will ask Tayo to elaborate. So the title of today's show is Assuming NPCs Exist, How Would You Recognize Them? And if can you recognize them? Tayo, as this is your topic, which I thought was very interesting, first off, do you want to explain what NPCs are? Because I dare say a lot of our audience haven't got a clue what that is.
Well, NPC stands for non-player character. Now, if anyone who's ever played a video game will be aware that if it's a multiplayer video game, that is to say, the person playing, the person to whom we're speaking now, the member of the audience who is listening, would be controlling one character. And in a multiplayer game, other humans are controlling other characters. But apart from those, there are multiple characters, usually multiple characters on the screen, which are not controlled by any human player. And these are called non-player characters because they're controlled by the system, by the game control administrative unit, whatever you want to call it.
Or the game engine, if you're playing
The game engine, that's the word I
yeah.
was looking for, actually. Yes, the game engine. So it's controlled. Those characters are controlled by the game engine. They're only there for as background characters, as fillers, whatever. They're not actually. They don't have any motive will of their own. They merely fulfill a function within the game. So it strikes a lot of people, and it's becoming an increasingly fashionable idea that a lot of people one meets are quite bland and don't seem to have an independent personality, a colorful personality, such as you'd expect of another human. And it has led to the rise of this notion that actually in real life, there are people-like beings who don't actually have a soul. They don't have that spark of what the Bible, I suppose, and Christians would call the spark of divinity. They are really here. They're really amongst us, but they're not real in the sense of having a human soul. That's the only way I can think of saying it. They're not human, basically.
Doesn't that bring in the argument regarding a simulated reality where we are perhaps, I mean, you and I don't know, is it me or is it you, the only real person in this realm with a conscience. You and everybody else perhaps could be an NPC and cleverly fabricated. How would we ever be able to tell if that was the case? So this NPC argument, how would we prove it? This is the question.
Well, first of all, if the game controller is clever enough to have created this entire universe, I don't think that game controller would be foolish enough to make NPCs that could be easily detected. Detecting an NPC would be quite difficult. On the other hand, one can see that there are advantages to having NPCs.
Such as?
Well, one advantage would be that NPCs could suffer the kind of pain that would make this game seem realistic. If you need someone to die a horrible death in a horrible car crash, a slow, agonizing death, it would be best if that wasn't a real human, because the pain wouldn't be real in a sense. It's not really happening. It's just a simulation. And it's gratifying to know that no one is suffering that horribly. But at the same time, because we don't know, we ourselves get scared. We are frightened. We react and we think, God, that's terrible. I hope that never happens to me. And it makes the game more believable because we have seen it with our own eyes.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. And in essence, yes, that would make sense. So it's almost keeping you in check, knowing that others you can visibly see or hear have suffered in some way, or it looks like they've suffered from our point of view. But in reality, because they're, I mean, how can I put it in a more mainstream way? They're almost zombie people.
Yes.
Where they don't have their own consciousness, so they don't really feel pain. They look like they're feeling pain, but they're not. That's I suppose the crux of this argument. But doesn't this? I want to direct this question slightly. Wouldn't this allow people to dehumanize others and think, well, these must be NPCs, so life is cheap, rather than life actually having value? Every single life on this planet, we should assume that they're like us. They have a soul. They have a consciousness. They have the pain points. They have feelings. They have a life. So they're just like us. They're not different in a way of being an NPC. And I'm fearful that if people start to think that other humans could be NPCs, they may adopt the life is cheap approach and devalue others, which is obviously not a good sort of direction of travel.
Yes, exactly. And that's one of the big problems about believing in NPCs. But I don't think we need to be afraid of that, because although the question that we're posing tonight is how would we know that such a person is an NPC, a given subject is an NPC, I don't think there would be a way of telling. I think one of the fundamental design aspects of an NPC from the point of view of if this is a simulation from the point of view of the game controller would be to create believable humans that are indistinguishable from us. So there would be no way of telling. So we have to assume that everyone we're dealing with is real, which is why I find some of these, and I have to, I'm sorry, but I have to say it's mostly Americans and mostly American women who go on about, oh, I met this character yesterday and they were so bland that I'm pretty sure it's an NPC. Yeah, it's just a boring person, man. You know, some people are really boring.
Isn't that just a get out of dating excuse. It's like, oh well, I'm not going to insult him that badly, but if I say he's an NPC with no personality, then I can live with it more than if I called him a dummy or an idiot or a fool or whatever it was they wanted to use.
I have met. I don't know why I started with an F sound. I have met very many. Again, I'm not trying to be sexist, but female students of mine who, if you're going by personality, they're definitely NPCs. Okay, there's just nothing
I mean,
there.
what do you do?
I do this just to be. Can you actually follow my?
But aren't teenagers like that anyway? It just seems the phase that they go through.
It seems, but I genuinely don't think I've come across a male student, and I thought, because these, and then it's usually even weirdly, it's the prettier ones. And it seems as if they just settled on this notion that their beauty, perceived beauty, by the way, is such that it will carry them through life, and they'll stop making an effort. And they just look at you like, yes,
I think, though,
there's nothing there.
Well, I think now you've brought that up, I think there's an element of truth there, because if people are attractive, whatever gender, male or female they happen to be, they do get more attention just by virtue of them being attractive, and social media will amplify that and make it seem that they are the most popular, they are the pretty one, they're the one they're going to get noticed, they're the one who's got the biggest muscles, or whatever it may be, the attribute that makes them above the rest and get the most attention. And that's not good, because we're then heading for a society who don't want to move forward with the STEM training and become, scientists, technical, whatever it may be, and want to focus more on looks, which unfortunately looks fade. But the intelligence remains behind the scenes. So it's making our youth of today, who are on their journey, understand that they still have to try, regardless of their attributes, if they're attractive, strong, tall, handsome, beautiful, whatever they are. It's great to have those, of course, but in addition to learning, so you become more useful to society, which you then can become, you can make progress in life, because that's the whole point.
I don't think we can just assume that they're NPCs. Though. I mean,
exactly, no.
I was being facetious when I said I think it could be an NPC, but it's horrible how there's nothing there. There's nothing behind the eyes. They just zone out and just look at you blankly. I don't know when they gave up. I don't know at what point these girls I'm talking about gave up, but when they gave up, it was a total giving up.
Could it just be a subject that doesn't interest them? Because there will be subjects that certain individuals are just not tuned into. They just don't like it. So if there's something you clearly don't like, it's very hard to motivate yourself to be engaged in it. I mean, I did okay at school, but English literature, for instance,
oh God,
the books that we were supposed to study,
don't.
I just couldn't get into it. Couldn't. And so I can relate to some people who zone out when they're doing particular subjects because they just don't like it. So
you know when you're talking to me sometimes, and I kind of zone out.
There's a hint there.
There you go. Proof for the pudding. Is, when you look into my eyes, there's nothing there. So I'm just waiting for you to stop talking, and then I'll come back again. But these people, there's nothing there. Even when, if you say to them, what do you like? You try to bring them out of their shell. So tell me something. What do you really enjoy? TikTok, fashion, hairdressing. That's nothing.
I think it's the way the question is phrased. You'll get more stimulation. I tell you where.
Okay, go on. What should I be asking?
Asking, you make a point about a social media platform and something like, do you know what? I personally think that Facebook trumps all the other social media platforms. Who's with me? Now, most students will be totally against you because they'll think Facebook, compared to the others, is a poor, an old person's platform. So that will create a stimulus in someone's mind because they all use social media. I'd be surprised that none of them did. So they're going to have a personal favourite. So if you pit your favourite of yours on purpose to create against their one, because you know they're not going to like Facebook, they're going to defend their corner, which is their platform of choice. Hence, you will get a response. So it's finding that point where they will come out fighting, so to speak. Asking them what they like, they're not going to volunteer that. No, I'm not telling you. Whereas,
well, that's very interesting, and that's a very good idea, and I will practice it.
okay,
I will. In fact, I can't wait to go and practice it. I will practice it on them and see what happens. But if they are NPCs, they could be programmed to react to questions like that, couldn't they?
of
They
course,
could be programmed to support Facebook or Meta, because, for example, what if Zuckerberg, whatever his name is, what if he is supposed to be a multi-billionaire, whatever it is, and he's supposed to take the world in a certain direction? That would be one way to do that would be to make him an NPC and to make to create an entire generation of NPCs that go into Meta and make Meta strong and powerful. So what you and I do is irrelevant. We can't stop it. Do you see what I mean? That there'll be major trends that humans can't stop because the game designer wants it to happen in a certain way.
Oh, I see. So these NPCs that you're now referring to aren't just characters to supplement the game. They're actually directing this game of life in a certain path. So
No, they've been programmed to.
So they're bringing everyone along, and in so doing, they want the humans who are conscious to then follow suit. Could it be
No, not follow suit.
but
They want humans to be faced with a certain number of choices, to live in a certain culture, in a certain milieu. For instance, we're all running around saying this woke thing is ridiculous. Maybe it's just the NPCs that have created wokeness.
Yeah.
So that we have to fight it. So we're all riled up, we're all upset. All the humans are like, this is stupid, this doesn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't. But the NPCs have been programmed to bring it up
In order to challenge us.
in order to challenge us. So, so there's nothing we can do about it. That's or we can try to fight it. Maybe we can fight it and change it. Maybe that's part of the game, because otherwise it'd be just really boring that everybody just agrees this is what we're going to do, and then everyone just gets bored or something. But this way,
It keeps the game exciting. So the NPCs are not humans. They're characters that are controlled by the engine to steer it in a certain direction.
absolutely.
That's an interesting
which
view.
is why you can't ask them, in my opinion, you can't ask an NPC questions and trip them up. They know more about us than we know about ourselves. So they know everything. I don't mean the individual, I mean the game engine.
Yeah.
So
They have to instigate a plan, and they have to try and influence the direction of the game, which is life, and we respond accordingly to make the game more interesting. Yes, I see what you mean. So they're the actual players in the game to change its course.
which means that NPCs are more likely to be in leadership positions, amazingly. There won't be background.
Yes, indeed.
They'll actually be very much in the foreground, very much at the head of the helm of affairs. And we are the ones in the background because we don't get to make decisions that can ruin things, if you like.
Okay.
But who created Would it have been NPCs who created atom bombs, nuclear weapons? Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know.
Was
Wait,
well, that could be one of the stipulations of the NPCs to do that, to see how the humans that are
yep.
playing the game will respond to that particular situation and how they would adapt or accordingly. So yeah, it is an interesting facet. It's an interesting way of looking at it. So the NPCs are not just sideshow
No,
people,
no,
just as
no.
fillers in the game. They are actually playing an active role to shape the way the game is played, so to speak.
Yes,
That's
and
an interesting.
not everyone in an earthquake that kills 1.2 million people. How many humans were actually killed? If it was 1.2 million humans, that would be one thing. If it's 1.2, well, 1.1 million NPCs, they were created just to
For
die on
that
that for
exercise.
that exercise. With a view to the humans then mounting relief efforts and being involved in that. So that will give an opportunity for humans to show empathy and things like that, and to actually go there under the.
Isn't that we were talking about this on a previous show
I knew you were going.
where we were
I
discussing.
know exactly where you're going
You
with that.
know where I'm going with this. This is adding more power to the argument that we're here to learn a lesson and
Uh,
act a certain way, whereas you believe we're just playing this game and the
We're just playing a
NPCs
game.
are making it interesting.
Yes.
But by learning empathy and becoming better humans whilst playing the game, obviously we are not actually humans if our consciousness exists outside of this realm.
Hmm.
We just inhabit the human body and are humans whilst playing this game. So, whilst playing this game, we're learning lessons as a human on how to behave and how we address and act towards other people. And the thing that sticks out the most is looking for solutions, improving things for
Hmm.
mankind, for society, for society at large, whether it's made up of NPCs or other fellow humans. We are looking for improvement to progress forward. So we're learning lessons by doing that. We're
Yes,
learning
but
to be better.
yes, but I could counter, because I believe that it's a game rather than some lesson learning thing. I could counter that we're just learning to play the game better, which makes
To
sense.
to so what
Because
you're
it,
saying that the game with all the challenges
Mhm.
are to test us, to test our
Not
game
test,
skills,
we're just
to
developing our
play.
game skills. Just like when you play an online game or a computer game, that's what you're doing. You're getting better and better. You're getting better the skills you
So
need.
you encounter more challenges as you progress through the
Pre-
levels.
Precisely. Otherwise, it'd just be a real drag. If we were just always in the Stone Age, there does come a time when we have fired every arrow, thrown every spear, chucked every rock, being chased by every Tyrannosaurus Rex. It just gets to the time of, look, we've done that, been that, give me something new, give me something else. And look at where we've got now: electricity, atomic power, air travel. Soon there'll be space travel. There's more and more to learn, more and more to play with.
Interesting. But this still begs the question where we could actually disregard this whole thesis and say, well, we are all human. There isn't a simulation here. These aren't NPC characters. These are just other humans who collectively come up with ideas to improve stuff. And some aren't necessarily improvements because there's a few humans out there who don't take that path, who choose to be aggressive, maybe
But
selfish.
doesn't that then back me up? For example, I've always told you, haven't I? I've always told you that we come here to play. What if we come here to play as a serial killer? So someone comes to play as a serial killer because that's his dream. look, let's pretend for a second that this is a simulation, okay? And that on the other side, we need credit, okay? And some people have got enough credit to come as serial killers. Do you understand? That's
Yeah.
what they want to catch 47 men and women, and they want to murder 47 men and women. Well, instead of coming and killing 47 humans, you provide, unbeknownst to them, 47 NPCs. They get exactly what they want. It's like, what was that film with Yul Brynner? Westworld.
Westworld.
It's like Westworld. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't watched Westworld with Yul Brynner, you should watch Westworld with Yul Brynner. You know what
It's
I'm
an
talking
old film, obviously,
about. A very old film. I mean,
but it's
60s, I
interesting.
think, maybe 60s or 70s. Westworld.
Yeah, I think they've recreated a series.
Terrible. Don't watch the
The
series.
series is bad, is it?
Well, it's modern woke and rubbish. There's no point watching it. Just
Oh,
get and besides, Westworld the film is a film. It's 90 minutes. The series goes on and on. It's a bit of
oh,
a
I
drag.
see.
So Westworld, but with not with robots, with flesh and blood.
Westworld with flesh and blood. Sorry, I've not
No, I'm
seen
saying
Westworld.
not Westworld. I mean that our world, this
Oh, I
world,
see.
is like Westworld, but not with robots, but with flesh and blood NPCs.
Right. So the NPCs are, in all intents and purposes, humans, but they just don't have the consciousness,
Doesn't
which,
have the soul. Yes, yes. They're just teleguided. They
but they
just
still have a program to instigate and complete. If even if it means they are a a victim of some sort as part of
yes,
this game.
yes.
See, I'm 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 fearful of that analogy, only
Oh,
because
mm,
it could, if some people were to grasp that and think that to be true, like I said earlier in the show, they would then disrespect other humans and think that life is cheap, and they could think, it's only an NPC, I'm not killing anybody.
yes. But we still have to discover how we can distinguish NPCs from humans, and we haven't done that yet. So if you grab someone and say you're an NPC, and the person says, "Actually, I'm not," how do we falsify that statement? How do we? Oh, not falsify. How do we test so that we know we're dealing with an NPC? If you can't perform a test that detects an NPC, then you can't assume that the person you're dealing with is an NPC. No matter, you might have a strong belief that that person is, but because there's no test, you can't act on it because you could be wrong.
See, there are some, whilst researching this show, there are some arguments or some signs that have been put forward
Hmm.
as indicators of an NPC, and they all seem to assume, and they've made an assumption, that an NPC is a bit dumb.
Yes, that's
So
another.
they've said things like an NPC is limited in
Hmm.
its responses or its ability to be creative, for instance. So that
Hmm.
that's an indicator, or its lack of originality or difficulty in adapting to things and quickly almost not switching itself off, but as you've already said, they're like blank in their eyes. That's a sure
Have they
sign of
actually
them being
met
an
my
NPC.
students then?
Do they listen to our show?
Have they actually met my? Because this sounds very much like.
I think
No,
all
look, that is just
teenagers
because
or
that is
majority
simply
go through this. So.
yes, that's just simply sorry to interrupt. That is just because they are used to the sorts of NPCs that they meet in 21st century human video games.
Yeah,
But we're talking about something that is infinitely more sophisticated than that. And if you the comments that I've been during my research I've met, the same comments apply. Oh, I met this very bland person. They had no opinions on anything, and they're obviously an NPC. No, they're obviously not an NPC. You can't. like what did you just say earlier on today? That maybe we're asking the wrong questions. Maybe what you were saying was utterly boring, and the person wasn't interested. I've got some bugbears. I always bang on about evolution. I bang on about Israel and Palestine. I bang on about Russia and Ukraine. If I'm talking to somebody who's not interested in any of those, they just zone out. They have zero interest in that. Now, the way I would zone out is someone starts talking about football. I got zero interest in football. So if you say, "No, Manchester United did this and Chelsea did that," I just, I don't really care. So why are people so certain that it's not them boring the other person, but that the other person
You were going to say
naturally...
something stronger than that.
No.
You stopped yourself. I thought you stopped yourself saying
no,
boring the something else off of them. So yeah.
Oh well, okay, yeah. Well, it wasn't that strong.
Okay, no.
Pants, maybe. I don't. I'm very careful to say pants because pants in America means trousers, and I don't want people to think I'm making an Americanism. So
Okay.
that's just a quick aside.
But that's a British term, obviously. For our American listeners out there, we have that term, bore the pants off somebody.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean trousers.
It doesn't mean trousers, but
No.
I think
It means underwear.
It means underwear, but people, I think nowadays probably misunderstand because let's face it, the Americans are winning, unfortunately.
Indeed.
To ruin our language. Anyway, so NPCs, back to NPCs and trying to detect them. I actually couldn't find anything on that didn't presuppose them to be dumb, empty, dumb and empty.
Agreed.
I couldn't find anything to say, look, okay, assume that just like anyone else, is there a way we can just sort of kind of trick question that we can just ask? I don't know if there is. I'm not sure I expect there to be, because the game designer would have covered all his tracks, their tracks.
Yeah, indeed, because they're going to make them as human as we are, and we're in the game. So you're just almost picking two. We're an NPC, if you want to put it that term, but we're an NPC which has had the consciousness added in it. So in all intents and purposes, we're exactly the same.
Yeah, we're all avatars, so to speak.
Yeah, that's the word.
We're all avatars.
We're all avatars.
But we are controlled. We are player controlled.
Yeah. We've got
difference.
Consciousness that control the player, whereas on the NPCs, the system, the game engine is controlling them. And if this is a simulated reality that we are all in, then the game engine is so powerful that we have no hope of trying to fool it or understand it and catch it out almost, because we're in the game as part of the same system. All we add is our consciousness, but we're not the consciousness in the game. We're acting as a human in the game. So we haven't even got awareness fully of our own faculties, of our own body, how it works, our system, our intelligence, our brain. We don't even know that playing this game. So how would we believe or think that we would know and work out if a fellow player is an NPC or just another consciousness? We have no way. We have no way of knowing. So I don't know how we answer this question, if at all. Can we?
I'm not sure. Realistically, I don't believe there's. I mean, even if we hooked people up to, what's it called? I don't believe I remember now. Encephalopathy. Encephalopathic. I can't remember.
What is that?
Brain machines to measure.
Okay.
Yeah, measure your brain waves. NPCs would be programmed to see. NPCs would be programmed to pass any test we get to.
Yeah,
we get to administer. They are designed to pass all tests because they're designed to look
Like us.
indistinguishable from humans.
So if we cannot tell the difference, then the logical answer is that they are like us. So we have to then change our question. So NPCs are not irrelevant. We go back to us being the question. Are we, if this is a simulated reality, are we the only conscious being and everyone else is an NPC? Everyone. So this whole simulation is unique to us only, individual. So you could be a simulated entity to me. I don't know that. Or vice versa. I'm a simulated entity to you. And don't say it. You've often thought that. But or the other question is, we are all in this. There aren't any NPCs. Everyone here is a human with a conscience and have consciousness that lives outside of this realm. So everyone is in this game at the same time.
I'd be really surprised.
Go on.
I'd be really surprised if there were no NPCs. I'd be really surprised if every animal, for instance, animals.
Now, animals could be NPCs.
I was going to say
that's more likely.
Yeah, going to be the animals are NPCs. From my famous from my continual reference to the children who remember living previous lives and remember the death realm. I very little information on animals being there. The one outstanding one was one young lad who was very particular about trees, but it didn't make a lot of sense. He said that the admin, he didn't use the word admin, God sends people to look after trees. And he was as if trees are really important for some funny reason, and he was going on about it. But animals hardly ever come up, I think, in their recollections. I wonder if animals happen to be NPCs. I know that's going to upset a lot of dog and cat or pets, a lot of people who own pets. But surely at some point we've got to think these are NPCs like bacteria and viruses. What is the point of them having a consciousness?
Well, they.
But have you ever seen? Sorry, let me just ask one last question. Have you ever seen a white blood cell chasing an invader in human blood?
I have seen it. Yes,
it's amazing. It's when you say
incredible.
chasing, it chases it around. I mean, it's looking for something, and it knows what is. And it knows what it's looking for, and it chases it around. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen this, I believe it's on YouTube. Look for white blood cell destroying
virus
or something like that. What an incredible video! It looks like that. And even the virus itself is trying to get away.
Yeah,
it's dodging around cells and it's going left and right. It's trying to get away, and this creeping monster, which is us defending ourselves, by the way. So it's not even a creepy monster. It's our defense mechanism.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary.
How does it know? You see, there's an intelligence there.
It looks like it does act as if it's intelligent.
Yeah,
it really does. In fact, they both do. Both the virus trying to escape. And that also looks like it knows something is chasing it, and it's doing its level best to get away.
Yeah, it doesn't just sit there wait to be consumed. It makes every effort to get away. So that would indicate, it wants to live. So is there intelligence there? I mean, that also begs the question: have we misunderstood the term of intelligence? Are we putting is everything intelligent, including plants? And we're just putting too much emphasis on intelligence being related to us. So there's a number of questions here. So going back to our NPC, the arguments that most people make are to do with the NPC, as you said already yourself, are dumb equivalents, like zombies almost, but a little bit more sophisticated than the zombie. But nevertheless, they have glitches, they have emotional detachment, they're not quite there, if so to speak.
Not all there.
Yeah. So that then that's the sort of NPC common attribute assigned to them. But during our show here, we've put a different question forward, that an NPC could actually be more intelligent than we give it credit for.
Oh, yes.
To direct life or direct the game.
An NPC could be as intelligent as the game designer wants the NPC to be. Einstein could have been an NPC. He can be as intelligent, because that's the thing. The properties are set by the game designer.
Yeah.
So the properties of the NPC would be set to whatever the game designer wants. Could be as charming or lack charm. Could be as dumb or as intelligent. I mean, it could be
endless.
Anything.
Or we go back again, they're all human.
Unless it has a different kind of brainwave pattern. I mean, if it was a movie, there would be a way of distinguishing, and then we could hook people up and go, aha! You see that brainwave pattern? That's not human. But like I said, I'm pretty sure that the game designer of this world would have all that covered.
You would have thought so.
You
would have thought so.
You know what I mean? Instances of deja vu and instances of the Mandela effect. Could that be us discovering something about some NPC, and then there's a reset and adjustments are made and it's covered now? So if we did get a hold of an NPC and hooked one up to a brainwave machine, we go, this is peculiar. I think this is an NPC. Then there's this kind of a reset. And then the next time we do it, no, the brainwaves are normal because it's been covered now.
Well, there's possibly some level of confidence in what you're saying there, because as you may have discovered yourself, if you go on YouTube and the like, there are a lot of people uploading things like glitches in the Matrix.
Glitches in the Matrix, yes.
This is basically what we're talking about here. We're talking about a simulated environment which is akin to the Matrix films. If our viewers and listeners haven't seen the Matrix, where have you been? I mean, come on, you need to watch it. And that's where all this pretty much has stemmed from, because it caught the imagination, and now it's a thing where even scientists are seriously looking at the possibility of this being a simulated reality. And in logical terms, it does seem to point that it's more likely to be a simulated environment than not a simulated environment. Because if you think, I mean, one of the arguments that's been put forward was the advent of computers in the timeline that we have. In 50 years, we've gone from something really rudimentary to, we can put goggles on and be in a simulated scenario, which is quite overwhelming to the senses. And there's only a few senses to fool. So if you give a entity time to perfect this, it can create a simulated world such as this, and create many of them even. Because we make an assumption that all of this takes computing power that isn't even available in our universe, but that's based on our understanding and limited understanding of what the universe is. So we're putting our boundaries on the creator of this simulated world, when they could be so powerful that they can create multiple of these. Hence why one train of thought is that each of us have our own simulated game. It's like if our listeners or viewers out there have played on, I don't want to name the brands, well, I will. Xbox and PlayStation, and there's Nintendo's. These are the three big players in that arena. You play any one of these systems, and you're playing it on your own, mostly. Now, you can play with others if you connect to the internet, but you can play the game on your own. So that, and that's on a box, on your PC or on your device in your house. So that's one environment there and there. So why can't we have millions of these simulated universes or simulated worlds that we all inhabit our own? So we steer it, we play the game, we divert the game in the direction that we can influence it. Some people don't influence it much because they let the game influence the direction of it. Whilst others take a more proactive approach, they influence their game to make it more stimulating for them. The NPCs in their game play a part, but they ultimately have an influence and steer it in a particular direction. So there's many facets to this. We don't know which one is more likely. They're all plausible.
You see, the idea that we live in a simulation is not new. It's just the word that is new. Because if you think about it, the Christians, which underpin Western civilization, Christianity underpins Western civilization, modern Western civilization, or pre-modern, I suppose. Because the Christians have always said this is a creation, that God created a creation. So at the level of God, this is not reality. At the level of God, this is a simulation, but it's a creation. It's a function of an intelligent being creating something apart from his own level of reality.
Agreed.
And I think you and I, when we were speaking about, what were we speaking about? We always speak about sort of this simulations and simulated reality and so on and so forth. And I came to the conclusion actually when I was researching this, well, an earlier topic, that things are not there until they need to be. To some degree, I think this is is it somebody's uncertainty principle? Is it Heisenberg? Well, who's uncertainty principle?
I don't know.
The physicist will tell us someone's uncertainty principle that until you measure a thing, it's potential. But that potential is only realized as an actuality when you interact with it. So what I'm trying to say is, if you see a star that's supposedly 2 million light years away, I don't think it's really there. I think it's programmed to act as if it is there, but it's not there until you send out a spaceship that gets there. And then when it's necessary for it to be there, it will be there.
Yeah.
So
the game is created as we expand as an individual.
Just like a lot of games act that way, that it's only when you expand the black screen and you reveal what's there that there's actually something there. And of course, as a programmer, I know that is when things are actually spun up and put onto the screen. So
it's taken up unnecessary bandwidth, processing power when it's not needed. Yeah.
So you're not going to. The creators won't have created all those stars and all those galaxies. You can look at them, but they're not there. Not really, and that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it does. See, that makes sense. And the fooling, which I suppose it is a term we could use, the fooling of us, while we're in this human form, our senses are limited.
Mm-hmm.
We only have 5 senses that we're aware of, although there are others that we seem to have lost. We know they're there, but we don't, if you know what I mean. Like telepathy, senses, we can sense things sometimes. our hackles go up if you hear these sorts of things. But by and large, there's not many there to fool. So we ourselves have done it. We've created software that can fool humans into thinking they're in a different place. So we've done that ourselves, and with our limited knowledge and understanding. So it's far easier for someone that's been around, we have to assume far, far longer, to create something and perfect it and make it so that it is indistinguishable. We cannot tell in any way whether this is our reality or not. Base reality is the term they use. Or it is a simulation of a base reality. So I think one thing that we do have, which makes the game interesting, is this curiosity. Why are humans given curiosity? What's that all about? Because that seems to be something that encourages us to keep going. Curiosity. Because if we didn't have curiosity, once we're fed and watered, we'd stop. But something within us seems to encourage us to go further, look for something new, see where things end up, look what's out there. And this curiosity element is perhaps something that transcends our consciousness, that comes with us in order for us to play this game of life as meaningful, I suppose, as we can. Otherwise, if we didn't have curiosity, what's the point of playing a game?
We'd look like NPCs.
Yeah.
we
would, like the basic ones.
So we don't all have that curiosity, because these are the people we were talking about earlier, the people who don't seem to be curious about anything. They just go.
So are we saying we've got different levels of NPC? We've got a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, perhaps, where the level 3s become the leaders. They're the driving force. They're the ones that shape the game more. And then you've got level 2s that, do some. And you've got the level 1s like some of your students.
Yeah, like a lot of monkeys. I just think that there would just be NPCs, and each one would be programmed for a purpose. So they're not levels per se.
No, but they're programmed in a certain way. A more advanced one or not.
Yeah, I suppose the oinks, the hoi polloi.
Oinks. That's quite. What does that mean? What's an oink?
An oink is just a base personality, just sort of low life scum, I suppose.
Okay.
It's a bit harsh, but that's why I say oink.
Oink.
You think about the seething masses in hovels and places. What are they called now? Favelas.
Favelas. Ooh.
Yeah, a favela is a slum area. On the other hand, when look, I've visited a slum in Lagos when I was growing up. The slum, as is sometimes the case, wasn't far away from a high-end area where I was fortunate enough to live with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
I'm visiting the slum. You could say life there wasn't fun because they were poor, but I have to be honest with you, they lived more fuller lives than we did.
In what respect?
There was always controversy, there was always drama, there was always this frenetic pace, out there to make a living, out there to push this, and they were really savvy because they were all street wise, and I wasn't. I was a putz compared to the average 6-year-olds over there. Knew a lot more about life than I did. I think he used to look at me with sort of pity. Look at this, pampered little buffoon. That sort of thing. And I don't think those guys would be NPCs. So I take back what I said about the favelas. They're not likely to be the NPCs because there's a reality there, a visceral reality, because life is so harsh that.
But the thing is, you see, life is harsh, we humans rise to the challenge.
That's what they live. They live.
Yeah.
Those guys are actually living.
But
I mean, I don't want to be born and to live in a slum. But the music that pumps out like 24/7, and he's thinking, don't people ever get any rest? How do they live
probably
in
not.
this blooming noise all the time? And there's always it seemed as if there was always a party every night. Some other person was having a party. It's like, where's all this money coming from? I thought these guys were broke.
I think that's the only thing that they can do.
They just
listen to
managed.
music, yeah.
They just managed.
The thing is, you see, going back to Western society, in comparison to the favelas and other places similar, when you're at the lowest level and you're having to get by, humans, not NPCs, have got ingenuity. They can look for solutions. And when we're in a first world country, like a lot of the Western countries, our intelligence may go up, but our physical skills have gone down, because a lot of the things that third world countries need to still do, they maybe still have to hunt and grow their own food. We don't do that. How many people in the Western world, in first world countries, do that? It's a minority. So there's skills that we lose by progression. So society has moved forward and people have a higher standard of living, and in turn things are done for them. And this will only progress more where the humans become dumber in so much, because AI and robotics as the next big thing is around the corner. You mesh those two together and you've then got a 24/7 servant that does everything for you. And so why would you need to do anything? And so that in itself causes an issue, because we humans, like I said, thrive more when we're challenged. If we've got machines and AI that take care of all our wants and needs, we're no longer challenged. So we will get dumber and fatter and less capable. So are we then playing a game that's beneficial to us, if this is the game of life? Or are we playing the game but playing it incorrectly and ruining our future if we play again in the future on another occasion? I don't know.
Star Trek tried to answer this question. It wasn't a film that I enjoyed watching. In fact, I think I largely didn't watch it. I know it had Jean-Luc Picard
Okay.
in it, but was it called The Undiscovered Country? No, that was the Kirk.
No, Undiscovered Country.
Was it John? I thought it was, anyway, it was one of these films where they went to an advanced society where they had AI and robot service and all that. And they said, well, what do you guys do all day? And they said, well, we develop ourselves. We, into the arts.
Yeah.
Things like that. So those individuals were very concerned with developing their minds, with studying, with learning more and more and more, and using AI for the purpose of actually helping to train them.
Yes.
So if we do that, and then perfect archery, perfect swordsman, whatever it is, you try to perfect something, and if you do that, then you're fine.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know about you guys, but for me, I gotta tell you, I just got a pad near a Snickers factory. I just got a nice pad near. It's just, guys, just keep the Snickers rolling, I'd be dead in 18 months.
Okay. I mean,
but I'd go happy, So
I'm mindful of the time here. I mean, we talked of NPCs of being other humans, but we're actually on the cusp of creating our own genuine robotic AI NPC, in effect, where they will be our servants. And obviously there's horror films and horror stories in the popular...
There's that very iRobot.
iRobot itself, which is a great film.
A great film.
Which
The remake was quite good with
Will
Will
Smith. Yes, it was very good, very good.
Good film.
Which shows the in a worst case scenario what could happen if things go rogue. But in bringing it back to what you were saying, yes, if we then choose, because we'll be able to entertain ourselves more. So it'll be entertainment and self-progression in terms of improving who we are. But if we don't have to strive to fix this particular problem, that can wane, and that's the thing. So we have to create new challenges that we then will need our mind to fix. I remember very quickly, I'm mindful of the time, I remember seeing a film one time where somebody from the 1970s somehow was transported into the future, and in the future no one could count.
Idiocracy, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Idiocracy.
I can't
Was the film
remember
called Idiocracy?
Okay. Well, anyway, he was from the past, and he went into a casino, and all these people are playing cards, but they couldn't count. So they were taking guesses at putting cards, and he's looking at it, and he was winning because he had a go, because he could count. And it was like, oh, how are you doing that? You gifted. What's going on? And he's, obviously he'd realised he'd been in the future, and they'd use computers all along to do the counting, so they'd lost that skill. But in the casino, the whole point of making it fun was that the computers were removed, and so they had to be on their own, and they didn't have that skill, whereas he did. So, but that's just an example of where we'd end up if we're not careful, if we create this robotics and AI. But going back to our question, because I'm mindful of the time, I've got to ask you to wrap up, actually. NPCs. First off, do they exist? And if they did, could we recognise them anyway?
Do they exist? Who knows? On a personal level, I suspect that they do. But to answer your second question, how would we recognize them? The answer is you can't. There's no conceivable test that one could administer to identify an NPC. So they might exist. I think they exist, but it's impossible to tell.
Okay, interesting. So in going by that argument, you'd have to treat everyone as human rather than trying to work out whether they're NPCs or not.
There's no point even
There's
trying.
no point even trying, no. But the other side of the question, the other side of the coin is, are we the only ones in it? And everyone is an NPC anyway. We have no way of knowing. Anyway, we could talk at length, and I think we should cover something similar to this again in the future. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.
Bye.